Hey everybody, thanks for joining us on an abnormal night. Usually we do Tuesday nights, but here we are on a Monday, and go ahead and fire away. Anything goes. You can unmute yourself or type in.
Atma Namaste, Greg. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
Good, thanks. Question regarding general cleaning. General cleaning when we do for our health rays and straighten them, clean them. One technique that I am aware of is obviously pranic healing, general cleaning.
Sure.
And is there anything else that you suggest to do that? Or sometimes when I'm outside, for example, I just think that all my health rays are getting straightened and they're cleansed and all dirty energies, they're going deep down into the core of Mother Earth and further disintegrated and disposed of appropriately. Does it equally work, or what are your thoughts?
It depends on how like kind of strong the will and the intention is when you do that. It's good to do it with the breath and visualize like white coming in through the pores of your skin, going deep, because you have outer health rays and you have inner health rays. And a lot of times when we focus on the health rays, even in healing, a lot of times we're hitting the outer health rays, but we're not really hitting those inner health rays. The inner health rays go from the skin all the way down to the bones. And so you can do a visualization where as you inhale, you're visualizing white light going in, and you just put your attention on the bones of whatever area you're working. And then as you exhale not just out, but about 2 feet out from the skin to help move energy, out through the health rays. And so that kind of hits the inner and the outer. Essential oil wise, we do have a blend called Health Rays that really hits more of the outer health rays. And then we can use single oils for the inner health rays. But single oil wise is like things like basil and coffee and petitgrain, things of this nature. Even lavender will have a little bit of an impact on the inner health rays. And the outer health rays, the best one for the outer health rays is probably helichrysum, but we also made a blend called Health Rays that helps to clean out the outer health rays. And one of the things with the health rays, for those that are not aware of health rays, there are these little perpendicular, like you could call them channels or tubes that come out of your body from the pores of your skin, and they extend outward out a few feet. And it is tied to your body's ability to absorb energy and expel energy off, like old, dirty, used up, stagnant energy. And usually when we have some sort of health issue, like a compromised part of the body, arthritis, things like of this nature, these areas, these health rays are a bit compromised. They're like congested, they could be droopy, they could get entangled, they could shorten, or all of the above, right? And so your body's ability to draw in energy from the environment and to draw in life force and to move energy through that area becomes very, very compromised. And so one of the ways to accelerate healing in a particular area is to straighten out the health rays. And if you look at it deeper, it is the energetic component to detoxifying the body, like detoxifying the organs, the skin, the muscle, the fascia, the tissue, but also it's tied to detoxifying you emotionally. Like it does mentally too, but probably impacts the emotions more than it impacts the mind. But by going through and really opening up the health rays, you can really let go of a lot of lower emotions, especially the inner health rays. A lot of times when we have issues with like anger or irritation, frustration, there is a physiological component, there's a psychological component. Energetically, it's usually very congested or entangled health rays. And so by going through and opening these things up, it allows for energy to flow. It allows for those emotions to displace and higher vibration energies to come in, or to at least be transmuted. And it keeps the emotions from building up. Like, so if you have issues with anger, if you have issues with irritation, frustration, all of these, part of the issue is the condition of the health rays. And so over the next couple months, we're going to be looking at different parts of the energetic anatomy and going much deeper than just this is what it is and it's what it mechanically does. Is like really take it to the extreme, treat it as deeply as you can with that part of the energetic anatomy, so that when it comes time to treat a system or to treat a symptom, it becomes much easier to treat. And so one of the things that we used to do in the early days when we were training as therapists is we would take one component of like physical anatomy or energetic anatomy, and we would try to heal as much as we could, only using that piece of the anatomy or that physiology or that part of the energy anatomy. And that way you really got a deep understanding of what that piece of energy anatomy does. So like you take the idea of health rays, and it's just like you would have a bunch of subjects that were like kind of people that we would do experiments on. And it was like, whatever the health issue, like let's only use the treating the health rays and treating them very intensely to see the impact it has on this condition, right? And so we would do inner and outer health rays. And then another one, we'd only do work on cutting and cleaning cords. And then another one, only cleaning the spine. And then another one, only working with the protective webs, for example. And we would do that with physiological things as well. And then we'd go through and we'd document like what things worked and what things didn't work. And you could really see a pattern that like when you worked a piece of the energetic anatomy or a piece of the physiology, how well did it treat these other conditions? So you really had a deep understanding of the anatomy, the effects of the physiology or the effects of the energy body, and just how much that part of the energy anatomy impacted, your body, your emotions, your mind, all of these things. And so we'll be exploring that in the Phoenix technique, the Metatron healing technique. And in December, we're doing treatment of like anger and anxiety and things of this nature. And it's a fusion of energy anatomy, physiology, psychology, and a little bit of a different approach on how to go through and address these things. So yeah, the other thing that you can use to treat health rays to open them up are the oils that we talked about, but also royal jelly, that you get from bees. You mix it with some honey. Sometimes you can always buy it already mixed, but if you get some royal jelly and take that internally, that also helps to open up the health rays. Yeah.
Thank you. So I've got Astara's, I've got the lavender oil. So is it just applying or is it smelling?
Either way, you can inhale it. You can take it in a salt bath, like a pound of salt in water. You could also diffuse it in the air. You could put several drops on your wrist or on a particular part of your body that you might be trying to treat. And like, for example, the health rays down at the lower part of your body, like from the knee down, tend to be maybe more congested than other places. Is you could rub some lavender on the soles of your feet and the tops of your feet and even on your shins a little bit. It will help to rapidly clean the energy body.
Thank you so much for that.
You're so welcome. Good talking with you.
And then go ahead, Sahaja, and then Shravananda.
Hey.
Hi there. Thank you. I'm so glad you're meeting on Monday night, just so that we could get to ask you questions.
Yeah. We didn't want to skip it. We're going to be traveling. It was just going to be cutting it too close. So it was like, well, we're here Monday, so let's just rearrange it and see if it works on other people's schedule and stuff. But
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have it's a very vague question.
Sure.
And
I have a very vague answer.
Okay. You tell me your answer before I ask the question.
Okay, perfect.
I was thinking, a couple of months ago, you gave me a suggestion. You gave me, I want to say a prescription, whatever you want to call it,
Right.
to do clove oil internally and sage on a body tonic for my memory. And I've been
Okay.
doing it, and it feels like I'm doing pretty good. And then I just thought, well, I ran out of my clove oil. So I thought, well, do I just keep doing this or do I take a break? I mean, so the
Right.
general vague question is, how do you know when to stop? I mean, and if it's working, would you still want to stop and take a break or
Both of those you could take kind of long term. So it's been a couple months and it is improving. It is getting better.
yeah, I feel clearer.
I would stay with it. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I would stay with it.
Okay, I just,
Yeah.
the question that arose out of that more in general is when do you know? And I think it's probably specific to each person and how the treatments are working for them. But yeah, so I just sort of like, well, do I just keep ordering this one or?
I would say it's probably not forever, but the thing with the sage is it's very good for calming down the sensory nerves, but it's also very good for brain fatigue.
Yeah.
And it also is kind of strengthening and fortifying to the body, and it stimulates so many processes in the body. I use sage quite a bit. I like to use sage. I think it's a great long-term thing to use for health issues, and even if it's just for reducing brain fatigue, I think that's always super solid. And then the clove, I mean, it has a lot of good things. I would say clove is really kind of underutilized in the West. In Europe they use it, especially in France, they use it quite a bit. But here people don't use essential oils internally like they do in Europe and in France. We use them here when we talk, but I mean, most times people are just diffusing them or applying them to the skin. And so, people have a slightly different take on how to use essential oils here in the US because of that. And, clove is quite amazing in its little area that it's able to treat. And I really think in the US, I can't speak for Europe, but in the US, clove is very underutilized. It's really quite amazing. And so, if you're having improvement and it's something that you can take long term, which both of these are, I would just keep using it. Yeah.
Okay.
There's other things where you do have to take a break. Like a good example is yarrow. Yarrow, after about 3 or 4 weeks, you got to take a little bit of a break. Just for like a week, and then you could do it again. But the reason being with that is yarrow will reduce your body's ability to absorb iron. So there's reasons why you would stop and then start up again. But clove and sage, pretty solid. Like you could use them, sage you could use as a tonic for a very long period of time. And the interesting thing about sage is not only does it help with brain fatigue, it actually helps protect the nerves. And so it really diminishes the tendency for nerves to be damaged or impacted by toxicity in the body or being overstimulated, being affected by inflammation, anything of this nature. Sage is very good for diminishing. And then the clove is actually very good for reducing inflammation on the nerves themselves. And so I like that as a 1-2 thing. I don't have people use it a lot, but I find that when I do that combination, I really like the impact of it. Like it's noticeable for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, clove is really good for the thyroid. Clove is really good for digestion and the digestive tract and how the muscles contract in the digestive tract and any sort of cramping that can potentially happen.
Hmm.
It's a super great antibacterial, antiviral, and so it's good for a lot of reasons, and it diminishes pain.
Uh-huh. Great. I'll keep
Yeah.
taking it.
Yeah,
Okay. Thanks so much.
you're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Shraddhananda, then Deborah.
Hey, hey,
Hi.
how are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm doing really good, thank you. I have, I think, an easy one and a complicated one.
Okay.
So vetiver, you said before, to put some in lotion and use it on your arms and legs, but which vetiver is it on the website?
Oh, any of the vetivers would work.
Even the vetiver ointment that's already
Oh, the vetiver ointment's turnkey and ready to go. You don't need to mix that with anything. It's just,
okay.
oh, yeah. But any of the vetiver, I mean, the only reason that there's different vetivers on there is they do have some slightly different scents, but therapeutically, they're all kind of the same. And then to make it a little bit more complicated, there is a type of like wild vetiver called Ruscus. And it is a very fancy form of vetiver. And so usually for therapeutics, I mean, you can use Ruscus. I use it more for like meditation and emotional, psychological healing, just because the scent is nice, but it's also substantially more expensive. For vetiver. I mean, it's not crazy price, but for vetiver, it's a little bit more expensive. But I just go to the good old bread and butter vetivers. Any of them kind of work. The different areas, they do have slightly different aromas to them, and so I kind of have a thing for vetiver. So like I try to have vetivers from different regions, just like how you would be a wine connoisseur. Like I like vetivers like that. Like I just like, oh, the one from El Salvador is, but Madagascar is amazing.
Yeah, I was traveling and man, I brought so many oils with me and somehow managed to forget the vetiver.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay, I'm good. And man, after about 2 days, I was like, everybody's gonna be very grateful if I find my vetiver.
Right.
So
Vetivers
I ran to a health food store and they had a vetiver, but it smelled like smoked wood.
Yeah. I think that one, if I remember right, that comes out of Haiti, if I remember right. That's the only oil that comes out of Haiti, and it's real kind of smoky. I like, I mean, it's still therapeutic and everything, but the scent is like the least pleasant out of for me out of
Yeah,
all
it was
vetivers.
really strong.
And I've used it. I mean, I had gotten a kilo or two of it from time to time, but I pay a little bit extra to get some from other places just because I want the scent to be intoxicating, So I usually, over the years, I've kind of vetted the places that I like to get the vetiver from. And, I kind of go to those places where I know I like, oh, I really like the scent. And we got thrown a little bit of a curveball about 3 or 4 years ago. Some cosmetic company had a line that was for men that they started adding vetiver to. And they kind of came in and bought up all the vetiver from several of the regions. And so it drove the prices up. It got weird with vetiver for a little while. But, after that all calmed down, I was able to reestablish my normal contacts and was able to go back to the normal vetivers that I had. The only one that kind of fell through that I wasn't able to get again, and it's because the distiller had passed away, was there was a vetiver that I really liked out of El Salvador, and it was different than the ones that we have now. I mean, therapeutically it was about the same. It just had a different aroma because of where it came from. But sometimes those things happen, and nobody really else picked up his crops and things. And so it's just one of those ones that went away. So yeah, it happens.
Well, thanks for mentioning that the smoky one came from Haiti, because my son is from Haiti, and he was talking to his biological family, and he was going through some stressful time, and he talked to 3 different people, and 3 different people told him to get the vetiver, and he was like, what the heck is vetiver? And so then I was visiting with him over the weekend, and he was telling me what's going on, and I was like, oh, sweetheart, we got to get you some vetiver, and put in some lotion.
Yeah.
He was like, Mom, what is it? He's like, even Haiti's telling me,
Right.
So now that makes sense.
Yeah. That's the only crop like that Haiti produces with essential oils. I mean, there's some regions that don't produce anything, but vetiver is a big deal in Haiti. And at one point, the distiller, there's a few distillers down there, but one of the big distillers had invited me to come down there to see the crops and the distillation and everything. And I just didn't make it down there, but yeah, it's their big crop.
Oh, it's good to know. I'll explain it to him.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
here's my complicated question. So there is a woman, she's 50, and as a child, she was diagnosed with severe eczema and nut and shellfish allergies.
Okay.
So she stuck with that understanding until maybe about 10 years ago. She still doesn't eat the shellfish, and she definitely, she can eat peanuts, but she doesn't eat any tree nuts. And so then she realized that she was just becoming inflamed all the time. And there was somebody on a call not long ago, they had the like purple sores. And they had originally, I think, been diagnosed with eczema as well, but the purple, like when the eczema clears up, the purple was left. And this person has that too. Like after the eczema, like the eczema will look like ringworm almost, but it's not ringworm. And then if the flakiness of the so-called eczema fades away, she's left with these purple marks that almost look like bruises. And so this inflammatory response now in adulthood goes beyond eczema to the point that it even gets in her eyes.
Oh my God.
Her eyes completely swell. Almost like, like a severe pollen reaction, maybe. But her eyes are like bulging, swollen, inflamed when this happens. It's not constant, but it happens. So she went for allergy testing, and then the allergist said, oh, well, actually, you don't have eczema. These are all food allergies. And so now she's got this gigantor list of 30 things she's not supposed to eat.
Yeah.
So she found out that I've been talking to you, and she's like, can you just ask him, please?
Yeah. That's the thing with allergies, like food allergies, respiratory allergies, skin allergies, they really are intertwined. And even when we were going through and treating, I ran a study back about, it's been almost 20 years ago now. And we were treating different kinds of allergies, and, we were looking at food allergies. We had 102 participants that we went through and treated with a wide range of allergies. And the thing with the food allergies was that when we did things with like clearing up the lymphatic system, stimulating the nerve function of the gut, and treating the skin, that most times that actually substantially reduced the food allergies, even to the point where they were just resolved. And then one other piece that we added in that was relaxing the diaphragm. Just because the diaphragm will compress some of the lymphatic vessels, and it basically makes the gut like toxic, like it can't detoxify. And so, we were doing that with both essential oils and with energy healing. And so I'll just go through and revisit some of the things to address. I can write up a little protocol for you, like that's a combination or a hybrid of these things.
Okay.
But basically, you know, like the ANS, which is you're stimulating the nerve function of the gut, and you know, you could say it a bunch of different ways, but the nerves in the gut don't have the sensitivity like if you sit on your foot, you know that your foot's asleep, right?
Mhm.
But in your gut, if muscles go to sleep because of, you know, stress or compression, body misalignments, anything of this nature, you don't really know it because you don't have the sensory input like you would on your skeletal muscles. And so a lot of times we'll have neurological issues in the gut and be completely unaware of it. Like you can take a scalpel and cut the small intestine or the liver, you wouldn't feel a thing.
Mhm.
Right? So in medical aromatherapy, we refer to this like component as the neurovegetable component, you know, just the automatic part of the nervous system that is running the gut, you know, and the ANS support works really well for this. But if you looked at individual oils, like things like rosemary, tarragon, anise or anise, all of these are very good for rehabbing the neurological function of the gut. And sometimes this will resolve some of it, but when somebody has such severe issues, you're probably going to have to do a bit of a multifaceted approach, but all concentrated on the same area. So one would be ANS support, right? Or one of those single oils to go through and treat that. That would need to be internal. You know, be it the rosemary, the tarragon, the anise, or the ANS support, a couple of drops daily, even 2 times a day would be probably even a little bit better. Then we'd want to look at lymphatic function, but also just calming down some of the, like relaxing the fascia of the gut. And so, you know, we have that blend Digestive Calm that's already in a body tonic. It's ready to go, but you could also buy it and make your own body tonic. But basically rubbing that on the abdomen on a daily basis, like preferably before bed, but really the person could do it at any time during the day. That could also be helpful because you're opening up the fascia and you're helping the organs to function better. And if there is any sort of body misalignment, it kind of helps to unwind some of that. And it helps to unwind some of the psoas, which is the hip flexors that's on the back or the front side of the spine, which can contribute to some of this. And it also helps relax the diaphragm. Right? Then I would treat also like lymphatic function. You can use, you know, if you just want to use single oils, you could use bay laurel. Bay laurel would probably be your best bet individually. We do have like a digestive lymph that you could use, or just like the lymphatic blend. And, you know, the chakra root cleanser that we talk about a lot is also a lymphatic stimulant. And so you could actually even use that on the abdomen, and that would help to detoxify. And to take it a step further, I always like the idea of using something to open up the health rays. And, you know, you could use the health ray blend or helichrysum, and then things like basil or petitgrain, coffee, lavender, all of those help to open up those inner health rays. And the blend that I use that opens up the inner health rays is a blend called Spasmophilia. And it just means like a moderate amount of tension stimulates spasms in the body. You know, mechanical stresses, tension, even emotional stresses will cause the body to go into like abnormal like spasms. And, you know, part of that is just the inner health rays are so wound up that the body becomes toxic. And so opening up the health rays is a way to stimulate the body's ability to detoxify physically, emotionally, can help to detoxify stress, you know. And a lot of times issues with the gut is just prolonged periods of stress on the digestive tract where it just starts functioning abnormally. And the issue there is that it's not always emotional or mental stress. Sometimes it's just physical stresses. You know, the body's out of alignment, the body's in pain, or the body's fatigued, or they have a hard work schedule, or emotionally, mentally, they might have been doing meditation and have calmed everything down, but the body still gets like triggered and goes into this agitated state. And so I really don't get too concerned about like why it's happened. I usually just try to unwind it. And if there is something still contributing, it usually presents itself and then I treat it. And so let's see, we go there. Then a lot of times the skin starts clearing up even by doing this. But if you wanted to go through and do a little extra on the skin, especially since there's things like eczemas and things like this, is you could use a couple of different oils. Spikenard, also known as Jatamansi, it's very fortifying to the skin. It's very balancing to the skin. It can really help to like normalize skin. But when you're starting to look at things like eczema, you want to go to something that's got a little bit more like targets the eczema a little bit more specific. And you know, when you're dealing with allergies, sometimes you kind of have to do a little hit and miss and see what kind of works, because people have different skin types and they don't always respond the same to the treatment. And so kind of my first go-to things for really severe eczema is usually Kunzea. And that is an oil that comes out of Australia and it's not like in the family of Maluka, but it's you know, it's usually in that genre of Maluka, being like tea tree and Neoli and Kayuput. And the thing that's interesting with like Europe and Australia is they will use anecdotal information that has been generated by physicians to say that this can treat something, where here in the US, if it hasn't been tested by FDA and FDA standards, they won't necessarily say that you can treat something with this particular, you know, substance. So natural things don't usually get tested. But in places like Europe and Australia, if enough doctors go through and treat something, they'll go, yeah, you know, based on anecdotal information, this is really good for, you know, whatever the condition is. And Australia recognizes Kunzea as one of the natural remedies that will treat eczema, you know, even severe eczema. And so, you know, they can put it on labels, they can, you know, people can make the claim that it's actually for eczema. And so, you know, when it's met the standard in certain countries or certain regions, I would take that as a pretty solid choice. And through the years, we've used eczema, and it doesn't work every time, but it works more than it doesn't. And, you know, skin can be really tricky. And so, you know, I remember talking with a doctor who specialized in skin issues. And I was like, what's the cause of this? Or what's the cause of that? And he goes, a lot of times we don't even know. We just treat. You know, we just go through and treat it. And so the other one would be Palmarosa. And Palmarosa, excuse me, Palmarosa is a little bit like a sweeter smelling. It smells a little bit like rose. And can be very good for eczema. And sometimes if the eczema is like weepy, like, you know, it has like a little bit of fluid that the eczema generates, then I tend to go Palmarosa instead of Kunzea. But either way, those are two really good choices to start off with. And with that, they could do it in salt baths, they could do it in a lotion. You could probably even get away with doing like a body tonic, but instead of just alcohol, I would probably do it more with a lot of witch hazel, just because the witch hazel would be a little bit gentler on the skin. Yeah.
And,
I can write all that up for you. We'll splice this up
oh, great. Okay.
to the person. But
Okay. Thank you. And I forgot to mention that she also has neuropathy, but based on what you just described, I'm guessing that the neuropathy is just another end result of what you're just describing.
Yeah, and neuropathy, a lot of times what we try to do with neuropathy is stimulate lymphatic movement and like things that are like venous tonics. And, you know, it's not necessarily treating the nerve directly, but you're taking pressure off the nerves and you're helping to detoxify the tissue, which will help protect the nerve. Anytime you want to protect nerves, any form of like regular sages will work. So like sage, Spanish sage, Dalmatian sage, sage triloba, you know, all those kinds of sages have like a neuroprotective component to it. Keeps the nerve from getting too damaged. But venous tonics and lymphatic stimulants also are really good for that, because you're removing the toxicity that will eventually cause damage to the nervous system.
I took the best notes I can, and I look forward to receiving the write-up.
Yeah,
Thank you
well,
both
we'll
so
cut this
much.
up and snip this up for you. And
And I have in the chat, I don't know if it'll make sense to you, but I tried to keep it in order for you too, but we'll get something emailed to you.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Sam.
and keep us posted. You know, sometimes you gotta troubleshoot these things. If you run it by me, I can try to help troubleshoot if it's not responding.
Okay,
Yeah.
safe travels to you guys this week.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
And then go ahead, Deborah, then Letty.
Hey, Deborah.
Hi.
Yeah.
I'm back in Florida. I'm actually literally just got back into Sarasota. I haven't even reached my house yet, but so you had recommended, you know, I was telling you that I had like fatigue all the time, and you said, well, you know, maybe should consider getting a blood test that it might be low blood sugar. I don't have health coverage outside the state of Florida, so I couldn't do anything about it. So I'm back now, and I'm hoping to do something.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that that's it, but given all the symptoms, I'd cross that one off the list, because if it is that, like, it's an easy one to treat. And if it goes untreated, you know, there's potential, you know, it can get serious. And so I would just for peace of mind, I'd just cross that one off your list.
Okay. So, you know, writing, I've been really pushing myself a little bit more. And one of the ways to do that are these like disgusting gels that you have.
Yeah.
And they have a good bit of caffeine and all that in it. And
I think that's the way they market them, disgusting gels. Like they are a little like, I'm eating this because I have to, not because, I hear you.
Yeah. But they really, really make a difference for getting the miles in for training.
Sure.
There's also this other thing that's very similar, but it's kind of in a candy kind of form. And I ate some of those yesterday, and I could not go to sleep.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's still like another thing that makes me wonder, like, is there something up with the blood sugar? And you know, like the thing with is it AC1 or A1C? I think it's AC1. When they do that test, they can tell what's been going on for like the last 90 days or so. And if you've had like weird spikes or something, you know, they'll be able to like normalize that and nail that. And so, especially getting ready to go on your trip and everything, it would be good that you just cross that off the list. And, you know, fatigue can happen for other reasons, but, you with you doing athletics and traveling and all that, it would be a nice one to cross off the list. And they usually can turn that test around really quickly. Like whenever I go to see
Okay.
my doctor, they do it and they draw my blood like right as I go in, and they have an answer for me before I even leave.
Okay. I'm hoping that won't be an issue.
Sure.
If it is,
Yeah. Always like fingers crossed, but like, we obviously want to also just cross it off the list and just make sure like everything's good and kosher in that area.
yeah. If not, though, I'm probably gonna raise this question to you before I go on the trip, because I leave on the 8th of November, and
Mhm.
so things are very discombobulated down here still.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet.
So, yeah, okay. Well, I just wanted to throw that out, maybe that you had a different sort of sense of that it was something else that I could go ahead and start addressing.
The thing that I always like usually would use with like athletes, like when they're performing, like either doing distance work or pushing it or racing. I use cinnamon a lot with them, and use cinnamon in the morning and during the day, and then at night I do things to like spikenard or tarragon or something to help deepen the sleep. And so I like to do like stimulate the body in the morning, for an athlete, because you want high performance. And then
Yes.
the faster they can fall asleep and the deeper they can sleep at night, the better their recovery so that they can perform better the next day. And so, of course, we want everybody to get good sleep, but especially for athletes, when I was traveling with cycling teams and they were doing stage races, I had everybody taking their waking pulse, like right as they woke up, what was their pulse? And I found that like if I could get the pulse rate to go down a few beats under, because as they would race, it would keep climbing a little bit, not massively, but it would keep climbing. And if I could keep it down in a certain range and even drop it a little bit lower than normal, they would just have a phenomenal race. Like they were just, man, they could push themselves really hard, and then next day it was like it didn't even happen. And so keep your heart rate down by getting really good sleep at night. Like really emphasize the sleep. We always think of athletes like trying to stimulate performance, but with endurance athletes, it's all about the rest. Like if you can get really good rest, makes the difference.
That's really, really hard for me. When I'm exhausted, like from doing the cycling, it helps me sleep. So I've got the relaxation spray that has been really good. And so you said cinnamon before bed?
Cinnamon in the morning, like cinnamon in the morning. Yeah, because that's going to be a body stimulant. It's going to help you with endurance. It's going to help with strength. And so that helps that. But in the evening, you want to take something that's going to calm your body down.
And that would be, you said tarragon.
Like tarragon, spikenard.
Okay.
The thing, like, valerian can work, but here's the issue, like sometimes with athletes with valerian. And valerian and spikenard are real similar, but if you get too fatigued, sometimes valerian will have the opposite effect. And like when you're pushing your body really hard, I tended to stay away from valerian because I didn't want somebody to have insomnia in the middle of racing. Even if they were predisposed or not, I just stayed away from it. So I would opt for like things like the spikenard or kava kava, even lavender, like for some people. Marjoram can be really good because it pulls you out of fight flight. It's toning to the parasympathetic part of your nervous system, which is rest and repair. It's kind of reviving to the spirit, like it's like uplifting, sort of, and it also has an antispasmodic property to it. and doing what you're doing, that would be a big piece of it. And so, yeah, I would use that as well. You know, as I'm like talking this out, I'm like, maybe you should just use marjoram. Like, play with it and see if it helps you to sleep. I mean, marjoram can be a treatment for insomnia, and if it helps, then I would probably go with that.
What would the application be?
Inhalation, like 25, 30 inhalations. I even tend to put like several drops of it on the solar plexus area. Things that I've also played with there, like if you're just trying to explore, if you happen to have angelica applied to the solar plexus, can be a treatment for insomnia. Lemongrass inhaled can be a treatment. And what is that? Let me look something up. There's one other choice that actually has a very strong detoxifying effect. That might be good for while you're performing. It's
Yes,
what's the one?
I have all of these
Like the
oils, so
Odorata.
Deodorum.
Yeah, so there's an oil called C period odorum. And
Yes.
it's a different kind of cumin. And in medical aromatherapy, you would take you take a kind of a big dosage of it. You take it like 9 or 10 drops in water, like internally, which is a big dosage. Like I've done it many times, but you know, not everybody's comfortable with taking that kind of a dosage. It does help with potentially with insomnia and deepening the sleep. But the thing with that particular oil is it's a very good detoxifier. You know, it's a form of cumin. And you would use it to detoxify like accumulations in the body. And the downside of it though is you will smell like Mexican food for a while. Like you will smell like Mexican food or curry or whatever you want to call it, but it's a strong smell. You know, I don't mind it, but people will just assume you had Mexican food right before your bike ride.
I'm sure the Japanese will really like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of options. I would like explore some of them with some of the stuff that you have and see what kind of works for you. But, you know, it's all about the resting heart rate and getting enough sleep. And, you know, even when we were treating PTSD, if we could get the heart rate low enough, I mean, we literally had cures for PTSD, like literally what happened overnight.
Okay. This is all really, really helpful.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, about 3 weeks away.
I know. I
Good
know.
for you.
Oh,
Good for you.
thank you.
You're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Letty and Kathy.
Hey, Miss Letty.
Hi, Greg and Sam. How are y'all doing?
Hey, hey.
Hey, okay, so I have like 2 questions, and then also wanted to just mention to you that asking if you could do a Bardo for the lady that my sister is taking care of. She ended up passing away. She was in the hospital, and I really didn't think it was that serious.
Who is this?
She was a lady that my sister would take care of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
She passed away last night. You know, she was in the hospital. I really didn't think it was that serious, but apparently, I guess she had a lot of blockages, but she didn't want to stop smoking. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Give me her name. Like, just text it to Samantha and be
Okay.
glad.
Okay, thank you. And then, okay, so I have 2 questions that are a little bit like, I don't have a whole lot of information. I'm just gonna see like, you know, what you think.
Okay.
So for a teenager whose sugar randomly drops, do you have any idea why that would happen?
Drops
There's-
like falls asleep or
The sugar just drops.
sugar drops.
And they've already done like tests like
Hypoglycemia. It could be pre-diabetic condition. Could be hypoglycemia.
yeah, they've already tested her for like yeah, there's like diabetes is out of the question. So everything was fine. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen where sugar just randomly drops.
Okay, so if that's the case, like sometimes what happens, and they're not concerned about hypoglycemia or anything like that?
No, I don't think so. Mm-mm.
Okay, so this is what I would do. You have a couple of choices here. You know, you're dealing with like an endocrine kind of condition, right? A lot of times I would step back and go, let's treat the whole endocrine system, you know, like this way or that way. Here, I would go right for the pancreas. Like I wouldn't even feel the need to treat the whole thing. I would just go right to the point. Do we know, is there any like strong emotions or anything that this person's going through? I mean, if they're a teenager, there's always the potential of that. But are we aware of anything like that?
No, but I want to say there is a lot of stress with I guess like band performance, you know, like I guess there's, you know, I mean, you know, they do competitions, and so I don't know, I'm thinking that might be a little bit stressful, but as far as like any emotional like issues with boys or anything like that, I don't think so.
Okay. And we're sure that this person's eating like when they should. Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. So I would give them actually several drops of Cypress a couple of times a day. And you have a couple of things that happen with that is for one, it's detoxifying to the body, but it really helps to fortify the pancreas and stimulate the function of the pancreas. And you wouldn't necessarily say like, oh, this is what I'd use to treat for diabetes or something like that. But when a pancreas is becoming erratic or not functioning properly, or like if a person's getting really fatigued after they eat, you know, something like this, I visit the pancreas. You know, even if there's a lot of inflammation in the body, especially after eating, there's always the potential for issues with the pancreas as well. And so I would give them 3-4 drops of Cypress 2 to 3 times a day. Cypress is one of those things where you could take big dosages of it and it would be okay, but I wouldn't go too crazy with it. But I would start there.
Sure. Okay.
The next step, that if they weren't responding to that, I would step back and look at the use of a combination of frankincense and myrrh. So you could either blend it together relatively equal, or you could use the 3 Wiseman blend. And the thing with that particular blend is it jumpstarts the whole endocrine system. Like it's just strengthening, toning, and fortifying to the overall endocrine system and its function. And so sometimes if the symptom oriented treatment doesn't work, then I step back and I look at, let's just treat the whole system. And so start with Cypress, and within a few weeks, if it's still popping up, then I'd probably keep them on Cypress and then have them do some frankincense and myrrh together.
And that's internal.
Is that going to be
both
internal?
of those would have to be internal. Yeah.
Internal.
Like if you did it topically, it would take a lot longer to work. It would still work. It would just take a really long time to work.
Okay, because I know like there was you know, this weekend there was like a band competition, and this happens to be my new boss's daughter, and I think after she was done with the performance, like her sugar dropped, and yeah, I mean, but you know, it's something that they've been practicing, so it's not like it wouldn't be like, oh, like she overexerted or anything. So anyhow, okay, so I'll mention that to him. One other question was okay, so I'm not sure how to approach this, but there's a lady at work that kind of asked me if I could take a look at her eye. She hit her eye with a chair, and then she ended up, I don't know, because you have to like pick them up, put them on top of the table, and I don't know how that ended up happening, but like the bottom part of the chair, like, you know, like a cafeteria school chair, hit her on the eye, and then so she had like some sort of surgery also on the eye, and honestly, she told me that she didn't have any improvement, and she still can't really see really well from that right eye. So I'm just kind of wondering, like, would there be any pH that would help her, or
Honestly, the thing to probably do the most is to hydrate the eye.
Mhm.
I mean, you can try cleaning and energizing it. You can use the delicate regeneration, but more than anything, like anytime you have an eye issue, like hydrate it, like just really super hydrate it. And so, saline drops in the eye, which has a bit of a lubricant. And then also have her inhale cinnamon, which will help to stimulate the body's processes, but it will specifically for this will start to help the mucous membranes produce more moisture. And then if you wanted to go a little extra, the Schizandra internal.
Okay.
Schizandra will help to moisten the eye as well.
Delicate
Yeah.
and the delicate regeneration, right? You said.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say what's going on there. If she's already had a surgery and it's not getting better. I mean, usually rule of thumb is after any eye surgery, you just really super hydrate the eye. Multiple times a day, you're putting drops in. You just keep it really super moist. Because
Okay.
the thing that makes the eye break down is it just lack of moisture. I mean, there's other things too, but lack of moisture is a big part of it.
Okay. Okay, I think that's it. Thanks, Greg.
You're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Kathy, then Ralph. Unless you didn't mean to have your hand raised earlier. Okay, you go ahead, Ralph.
Hey,
Three wise men, internal or topical?
what you using it for?
For jumpstarting the endocrine system.
Internal. Yeah.
Okay. Couple of drops in water at a time.
2-3 drops in water 1 to 2 times a day. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Boy, that was easy, Ralph.
And then go ahead, Kathy.
Hey, Kathy.
If you need help unmuting, just
I have a kind of a weird situation that came up this week.
I have a weird answer.
Well, I was sitting with a group of people,
Mhm.
and every time one of the group would walk in my direction, started feeling almost like not really a panic attack, but I had to do some diaphragmatic breathing, relax. That person would move away, and then I would be okay. This has never
Was it
happened.
always just the one person?
Yes.
This is what I would do with that. Like that's actually not that weird. It could have something to do like with you. Do you have a relationship with this person on any level, like work, friend,
No,
adversary?
I did not meet this. This was the first time I met the person.
Okay. Yeah. So sometimes it doesn't even have anything to do with you, but because you're in a group dynamic, you have these energetic cords that appear, because you're interacting, just like we're interacting right now. There's a little bit of a cord between us where we're verbally communicating, but also energetically, we have energy going back and forth where there's a kind of communication. And sometimes what happens is the person might be having a difficult time, might be full of stress, might be full of fear, might be having a conflict with somebody else, and that energy is not directed at you, but you kind of start to feel it when the energies start to mix a little bit, especially when you start to have issues the closer they get to in proximity. And so one of the ways to treat that probably pretty easily is to use like ironbark eucalyptus or that blend etheric cords. Ironbark eucalyptus is that kind of eucalyptus that smells like lemons.
Mhm.
It's a very lemony scent. And you can just inhale that. But I would say inhale that and think of the person, like literally think of the person, because it will clean the cords between you and that person. And it will just undo the effects of any sort of contamination that can come from that. And then I would use something like like Gilead or Palo Santo or Chocolate Roots Cleanser, just to clean out whatever kind of came to the surface. Because like when you clean the cords, you're cleaning up the energy that's going back and forth between the two of you, but you're also starting to clean up some of the contamination that entered into your energy body. And as that comes out, it will dissipate, but if you use that second oil, it'll just flush it out just right then and there. If you don't have any of those, just do the ironbark eucalyptus and call it good. If
Well-
you want, you can take salt baths in it. You could even put it like on your solar plexus and things like that. But usually inhalation will knock it out.
Well, interestingly, this person a little bit later started doing some diaphragmatic breathing herself and
Mhm.
was confused. I mean, I felt fine once I was out of the room with that person. But then later on Tuesday, I ended up having my blood pressure go up to 180.
Ooh, that's high.
It was high. So I went ahead and went to make sure I wasn't having any cardiac issues.
Right.
But it's been a good bit of the week that I've tried to, I've done the sage, the Palo Santo, been drinking some hawthorn tea and hibiscus. So, but you're telling me I need to go ahead and use the cord cutter, and I have that.
Oh. The blood pressure thing is a little bit interesting. Any reason why this person would be adversarial towards you or judgmental or anything of that nature?
No, I don't even know if that person noticed me, really. I mean, it doesn't even have to be that person. She's a very sensitive person, so maybe it's someone else connected. I don't know.
Well, let's stick with what we're talking about.
Okay.
And, I think of her, but I think of the whole group. Like, do her first and then, visit people in the group or just the group itself. And, keep thinking of them as you inhale and see if that resolves it. And if not, the rise in blood pressure is a little concerning. That usually means there's a little more something, and you think it's really tied to this like group or this interaction or anything, or think it could be just a coincidence or?
I mean, they're all very, very spiritual, like-minded people. This one was someone I did not know, but she's evidently she's traveled this path for a long time.
She travel out of the country at all?
Not that I know of.
She hasn't talked about like going to a particular site or anything like that?
No. Like I said, I just kind of met her and recently found out about her.
Were you in that class where we did the Litsea cubeba lotion?
No,
Do you happen to have Litsea cubeba?
no.
Do you happen to have like lemongrass or anything like that?
Yes, I actually have some that I'm growing too, but I also have the oil.
Yeah, let's have you inhale the oil maybe 2 or 3 times a day. Like still do the thing with the ironbark eucalyptus, but
Do I have your etheric cord?
yeah, that actually is even better. Yeah. Okay, so as I look at you for whatever reason, it could be this person, could be something else, but like before and after, there's a lot of elementals on you after that group. And it could just be,
Yeah.
somebody in the group or, that's why like sometimes I start getting a little bit like, did they go somewhere that is like a site where, like sometimes these holy sites also have a bunch of kind of parasites in them as well. They're good and there's also stuff there. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
She actually
sometimes,
said that to her sister, that she was
yeah.
just overwhelmed with a lot of elementals.
Yeah, so Litsea cubeba would probably be the first thing that I would use. Lemongrass would be right up there. There's that blend that we make called Stagnation. That's really good for that. There's one that's elemental release, but you have lemongrass. So I would just start inhaling that.
Mhm.
You could even take a couple drops internally if you needed to.
Okay.
And clean that up. Palo Santo could also be another one that you could use for that, just inhaling. A lot of times you want to clean those things off the arms and the legs. And so I would
Okay.
put a couple of drops of like Palo Santo if you have it, and then
Uh-huh.
the arms and legs. If you don't have Palo Santo, mugwort or Artemisia.
I have all those.
Okay. Any combination, or you could rotate them, but yeah. Hit that and see if that cleans that up. And if for some reason it doesn't, let us know, but that should clean things up.
Okay. I did spray the room with Palo Santo.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
those things happen. And sometimes, like I had a client one time come back from Machu Picchu, and beautiful place, a very spiritual place and everything, but they were just covered in parasites from wherever part of the mountain they were on. And one session we cleaned them all up, but
Mhm.
sometimes these places have those things just because it might be that a bunch of people are there and they're all expelling, or who knows. Like it doesn't really matter. It doesn't mean that something horrible has happened. It's just you want to just clean it up.
Well, let me ask you this. Is it
Oh.
possible that as we age, attending to our protective energies could decrease?
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, the person
yeah.
was much older, and I know she's worked a lot with the energies, but yeah,
It can,
she
it can,
seemed
it
frail.
can, that particular thing with the elementals can turn on a dime. It can happen a little bit easier as we get older, but that can turn on a dime at any given time. You just in a place where there's a lot of those kinds of energies, or you're around a bunch of people, or the body gets sick, or somebody gets really super upset at you, or it can happen for all kinds of reasons. Like sometimes I try to figure it out, but a lot of times I just mop it up. And if there is an issue that still needs to be resolved, that usually presents itself. But a lot of times you just clean it up and move on.
Can you carry in a medicine bag? What do you think of that?
Yeah, like I wear medicine bags quite a bit. For something like that. You know what I do with a medicine bag is I would take some sage, like leaves of sage, break it up and stuff it in the medicine bag and just wear it for a little while.
Okay.
You could do that.
Yeah, I've had homegrown.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're so welcome. You know what else works really good for elementals is hyssop. Hyssop's really super good for elements.
Growing that too.
Yeah, you could put that in a medicine bag as well.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
I'm going to your house. All sorts of good herbs.
And then go ahead, Peggy, then Donita.
Hey, Peggy.
Maybe you didn't mean to be unmuted. Go ahead, Donita.
Hi, Greg.
Hey.
I have a quick random weird question for you.
Mhm.
You know,
Oh, Anita, you sound so tired. How's it going recovering from the hurricane? I feel so bad for you. You sound exhausted.
we are, but we're also processing. There is a lot of layers of,
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
you know, but it's old stuff. You know, it feels like the hurricane just stirred up the pot
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
all the way to the snails and the core of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is what it is, but sorry, maybe you're making me cry now, and I was just doing good. I have
My specialty. I can make people cry at the drop of a hat.
yeah, you're good at
He's like, how are you?
that. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You know, the kind of like the ugly truth. I realized I've been sitting with it. The fact that I am very afraid, very fearful of success.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been very good at sabotaging myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got all the tools, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's like some of those special tools, I mean, the most sacred tools. And at the same time, I am scrambling
Mm-hmm.
and a mess that way, you know. So and this storm and everything else is just kicking my butt, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Deep. Whew, you want a ceremony called for a hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so my question to you is, what can I do to?
Yeah. So this is what I would say about that. You know, it's a lot of like how we approach things, like with the different classes and stuff. You know, a lot of times if you look at it, sometimes we're talking about something and it seems like the same words, but we're talking about like a different approach or something. And in a way, you could say like, yes, sometimes the same words are being used, but there's a lot of layers to going through and being able to treat something. And the different layers represent different things that need to be addressed. And so, yes, you might be talking about the same thing. The rational mind, you know, our everyday mind just goes, oh, this is a struggle. Like, you know, you look at self-sabotage, for example. This is a struggle. You do X, Y, Z, it eradicates that. When a lot of times it is very multifaceted, it's very multi-layered. And you can't always like come at it from just a single point of view. You have to kind of come at it from different angles. And one of the things I could say personally is in my younger years, when it came to self-sabotage, I was really thinking about turning pro. Like I was really, really good at it. I mean, really good at it. And I would go through and I would try to treat it this way and I would try to treat it that way. And you know, I tried to treat it a lot of different ways. And a lot of times I don't know that I really made a dent in it. And it was very frustrating. You know, I've said before in some of the classes and the study groups, like in my youth, if I did something for somebody else, I would rock it. But if I tried to do that same thing for myself, couldn't pull it together, just couldn't pull it together. Right. And so, you know, it's always something that's in the back of my head, like, be careful, be aware, you know, you have that tendency, you know, and actually we all have the potential for that tendency. And one of the things that like, if I was to step back and say like, what's one thing that I could really go after to really help all these other things work? And, you know, we were talking about it a couple times, even in this little streaming session, is the health rays. Like if you really work the health rays, both the outer rays and the inner rays, you are detoxifying something. First, you're detoxifying the body, but more importantly, you start to really detoxify like lower emotions, lower like frustrations, angers, like hurts, pains. I tend to go pretty hard at the health rays for this. And you know, a lot of times when we approach this, we kind of unwind the outer rays, but the inner health rays that go from the skin down into the body, into the bone, they're usually the ones that are worse. And so I would do a combination of either use the health ray blend or helichrysum, right? And then internally for the inner health rays, when I say internally, the inner health rays use either spasmophilia or use basil.
I've been taking basil every day internally.
Yeah, good. But like here, you wanna inhale it and just direct it to different parts of your body. First, do the outer rays. So either use the health ray blend or helichrysum and just kind of go section to section of your body, right? Then go through and use the basil or the spasmophilia and go internally, like just, you know, still the same body parts, but go deeper and deeper into the body and go back and forth with that for a little while, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And at some point, you'll be expelling things both out of the brain, and mostly it will come out of the solar plexus, sometimes out of the basic and sometimes out of the throat, right? But after you go through and do that, you know, you have your PERBA, right? You know, you have your PERBA.
Oh, I have
After
everything.
you've done the health ray several times, go through and disintegrate, or use the sage. Like after that, just, you don't even have to direct that at this point. Just start inhaling the sage, which will kind of flush things out, and it will help to strengthen the brain. And so I'll do that for a little bit, and then you can stop there. But I usually don't like to stop there. I take it a little bit further, and I use a combination. In fact, I have it right here in my pocket. Like I literally do this all the time. Splendor and poplar, right? And the two things that I do with it is you sit and inhale the splendor with your awareness on your brain, and you do that for a little while, and then you rotate it with the poplar, right? And then you do that for a little while, awareness on the brain. And then you go back to the splendor, awareness is on your brain, and then back to the poplar. And you're literally unwinding both the neurology and the mental processing that kind of takes you to that place of that self-sabotage. And so this is one I know well for myself. Like, I mean, if I even suspect that it's starting to happen, I do health rays, inner health rays, splendor, poplar. And if I'm feeling like there's some brain fatigue in there or I'm really expelling, I do the sage in between all.
Thank you. Because
That will very much usually eradicate that. And you know, that's the thing that, fear of success or fear of being good or fear of standing out, any variation of that. It's a lot more common than you think. It's not like, oh boy, I got this one. A lot of people have that. And it's a weird one because, in your mind, you would think like, no, I don't have that. But, I would just catch myself in behaviors where I'm like, yeah, I could have done really well there, but I didn't, or I gave it away, or, I let somebody knock my feet out from under me, or worse yet, nobody around me was going to knock my feet out from under me. So I would go find somebody like, hey, excuse me, could you please come over here and knock my feet out from under me? I mean, it was almost like that kind of behavior. And I was like, God, I can't get old doing this. Like it's it's just going to make me miserable. And I did versions of this, and I found that, trying to think of a way to say this, it made me more like kind of courageous in some of those situations to like step out of that self-sabotage box. And it's an interesting thing, because it's not necessarily like, oh, I have courage and I'm strength. It's like you kind of let all that stuff go, and you just like, you come to this point where you're like, I'm sick of this. I am just sick of it. It's not I'm being courageous because I'm feeling strong and I'm gonna take this on. I don't want to do this anymore. To my bones, I don't want to do this anymore. And it's almost like out of frustration and exhaustion of the pattern that you just go, I'm stepping out of this box. I don't care what happens. But when those health rays are so congested, think of the health rays as your ability to overcome obstacles, right? It is literally like in some of the drawings of Ganesha, which is the deity in Hinduism about, and in Tibetan Buddhism, about overcoming obstacles. You always see like health rays drawn all around Ganesha. And it's because when the health rays are opened, your ability to overcome obstacles, to release the inner blockages, to flow around whatever the difficulty is heightened. And be it self-sabotage, be it whatever the issue is, it doesn't even really matter. Like you just start releasing very specific certain kinds of lower emotions. Like we're doing the class in December, really specific to the health rays and specific to the emotions that are associated with health rays. But anger, anxiety, the ability to overcome obstacles. And in that class is the tendency for self-sabotage. The very first step is to really thoroughly go deep with the health rays, not just like, oh, I'm going to open up the health rays. I mean, like, there's times when I sit and work the health rays, just the inner and the outer rays, for like a couple of hours, like just inner health rays, outer health rays, inner health rays, outer health rays. And then I'll go take a salt bath. I get out of the bath, and then inner health rays, outer health rays. I just go back and forth. And I mean, just open things up so that things can flush out. Because a lot of this has to do with the past. It has to do with conditioning, has to do with past experiences. And you're just opening up the pathways for this issue to get resolved.
Thank you so much, because you know what, this past and old stuff, like, because I see things and it comes to me. So after this, it's just much more, but it's so super uncomfortable. And what I noticed is I was so irritated, and I'm so like fed up and frustrated.
Yeah, that right there tells me, Ling Ling helps with frustration, but that also tells me health rays are super congested, like right off the bat. Just when you tell
frustrated,
me that,
not with others, more like frustrated with myself.
That doesn't matter what the frustration is. Just any sort of frustration, it's a health issue. Yeah, too much accumulation.
Do you think it's
like,
just?
As soon as I catch myself getting frustrated, I start to go like, well, it's this, it's that. And I go, well, let's open up the health rays and see if I'm still frustrated. It's never there. Because when you open up the health rays, you just kind of almost like shift to like, okay, time to problem solve, or time to move on, or time to let go, or time to step away from this, or like, this is how I'm going to deal with this. Like you just kind of go into like this mode of flowing around whatever the difficulty is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And and another thing that's been coming up is this week I've been between frustration and heartache, almost like grieving.
Yeah.
But the grieving of just seeing things, I've been, and feeling, I guess all of it, right?
Yeah.
And my old stuff. So right now, like this afternoon, I've had difficulty taking a deep breath. It feels like it's like tight. So just doing this, what you just said, will help with all of it.
Yeah, that should help. But remember to keep doing the cinnamon. Stimulate all the processes of the body, strengthen the body, and anti-contagious diseases, especially where there's like flooding and stuff. Cinnamon is your go-to thing for that.
We don't really have that. More of like the aftermath of the everybody's belongings on the side of the road.
Yeah.
But okay. Cinnamon. I've been doing bay laurel. I've been doing a lot of tinctures. I've been doing basil internally, and I've been sniffing anything I can. But I felt like coming to ask you, what do I do with this self-sabotage nonsense?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. It's something that we all have the potential to do. Like, it's in each and every one of us. So, I mean, it's just to what degree that we do it. And
But do you know the funny thing is, like, it was always there, and I always knew it, but it was camouflaged.
Yeah.
So now it's like it's waving its flag at me.
We come up with great ways to manage those things. You know what I mean? Like I was pro at it.
Oh, I think I'm a very good pro. And my mind is even better.
Yeah.
It's like whenever I try to relax, my mind goes like, nope, let's do this.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much.
You're so welcome
for everything.
Someone said they have a master's, maybe even a PhD in that as well.
Yeah. It's a super common issue. Yeah. But when it's happening to you, it feels like it's all you. Like when I thought I was like the only one in the world that did it. And then when I started talking to some of my friends who, I always had like therapist friends, in those circles, I started to realize that it's actually a very common problem. But when I was experiencing it, it was just like it was only happening to me. Yeah.
For clarity, like when the frustration's coming up, would you still smell like ling or anything and do the health raise both?
Yeah, like I'd say there's levels. Like if you're feeling frustration, sometimes if you smell the ling, it can knock it out pretty quickly. But if the ling isn't knocking it out, step back and do the health raise. And the inner health raise, which would be basil or spasmophilia, petitgrain, something like that. And then go back to the ling, or sometimes the health raise will just flush it out.
And when we work the health raise, we do back and forth, right?
Yeah, I would do back and forth. And I would cover different parts of your body. Inhaling it is good, but starting to visit different spots of your body can be very, very helpful. It will accelerate the process.
What are the parts of the body we visit? Like things
The whole body. Yeah. Arms, legs, torso, chest, back, any sore spots or problem spots that you have, anything compromised, but I mean head to toe, including the brain. Yeah, head to toe. Yeah. Okay, so we are going to switch over to the Angel study group. I say angel, but it's really turned into more the esoteric component of this. And next week we're back on for our Tuesday nights study group. And this Wednesday, including next Wednesday, we're on just like normal for both the Astara events and our Sanathon technique. And if you want tonight, we are also going to do a meditation and blessing after the esoteric study group with Astara. It is our 71st anniversary this day. So yeah, so take care, you guys. Love you.